Early voting in Chicago is now open in all 50 wards through Election Day on November 5th. Remember, any voter can vote at any early voting site no matter where they live in the city. And if you haven't registered yet or you recently moved, same-day registration is available at all early voting sites. Just bring 2 forms of ID, one of which should have your current address. Go on and check voting off your to-do list and vote early. Go to chicagoelections.gov for more information. It might be getting cold outside, but it's about to get a whole lot colder at Paramount Theater in Aurora. That's because the regional premiere of Disney's Frozen, the Broadway musical, is bringing winter magic right to our backyard. Playing October 30th to January 19th, you and your family can watch Anna, Elsa, Olaf, and Sven in this heartwarming fable live on stage. Get tickets at ParamountAurora.com or call 630-896-6666 and use promo code CityCast, all one word, for $5 off. Today on CityCast Chicago, we've got more turnover at City Hall. Chicagoans weigh in on the CTA Metro merger, and Stevie Wonder is coming to town, y'all. Stick around to the end to find out when and where. Helping me break it all down from Block Club Chicago, Atavia Reed and Jamie Nesbitt Golden. It's Friday, October 25th. I'm Jacoby Cochran, and this is what Chicago's talking about. Morning, my friends. Jamie, what's up? Happy to have you back on the podcast.
Hey, friend, what's going on? Thank you for having us. Gang.
The Block Club crew is here. Hello.
Atavia, fresh off vacation, back on the mic. We appreciate you joining us as well.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. This matches the vacation energy. It's always lit here.
What I really appreciate about Block Club Chicago, and this is obviously no slight to anybody else. We love all of our guests, but I have very regularly just been walking out on the street and run into y'all doing y'all job or moving around the city. Jamie, I literally saw you earlier this week, and we hit each other with that quick, like, yeah, I saw your email. You saw my email? Yeah, I saw your email.
Word.
For everybody else listening, if this is not your first CityCast Chicago episode, welcome back. If it's your first one, nice to meet you. I'm shaking out my hand. You can't see it, but like, boom, boom, boom. I'm glad you finally found us. Or at least after months or even years of you seeing it in the periphery of your Chicago life, you finally decided to pop in, give us a chance. Either way, we appreciate everybody for hitting play. Every single week, Monday through Friday, we are talking about all things Chicago. And I mean all things in all neighborhoods. This week alone, we discussed the forthcoming school board elections, everything you need to know. We talked about the push to lower the city's speed limit. We talked about some of our favorite candy stores, the candy and our Halloween bags. We talked essential rules to living in the go. And along the way, we sprinkled in events across the city, inside jokes, 3 wishes to a magical sports genie. Spoiler, they were used on playoff hopes for the Bears. And the other 2 were both essentially the same wish, me asking for Jerry Reinsdorf to sell off everything. The White Sox, the Bulls, the stadiums, everything, and move to Canada. Sorry, that went too far. It's Friday, so we're rounding up some of the city's biggest stories with a couple of our friends. But before we get into today's roundup, I've got to say thank you to everybody who has joined up during our fall member campaign. All week long, we've been telling you how much member support helps us build a sustainable future for this small but mighty podcast and newsletter team. We've been telling you how much we love doing these jobs and, of course, how much we ride for Chicago. But I need to drive home that we also do this for and with you. Your emails, DMs, your comments, they motivate us. Your texts and voicemails give us new ideas and perspectives. And when you stop me, like me on the street, in a museum, at a party, and you tell me that you have got something from this entire experiment of ours, it truly means the world to me, even though I'm awkwardly accepting the compliment and trying to get out of your face as quickly as possible. I want you to know I appreciate it. Today is the last day of our membership campaign. Last day you're going to have to hear me talking about you signing up for not only the ad-free episodes, but the exclusive City Cash Chicago tote bag as a thank you for you joining us. All you got to do is go to membership.citycast.fm. That's membership.citycast.fm. It's the perfect way to support the team. And to be clear, after this week, the podcast and the newsletter, they still going to be for the free. And you can still join to be a member at any time. But if you want this tote bag, go on and sign up now. Speaking of tote bags, things that we put in it earlier this week, Jamie, Atavia, we was talking about some of our favorite candy stores around the city. Candy we like throwing in the bag, the candy we hoarding from the little ones in our life. And I want to ask y'all, what are those places and things for you? Jamie, I'm gonna start with you.
So okay, for me, I grew up with the corner candy stores.
The little gas station, the little grocery store. Mm-hmm.
Or the little old lady who used to sell candy on the corner, from her stoop. That was my thing. So I don't have that anymore. And also my direct supplier is now too old to trick or treat. So
direct supplier.
He's in 9th grade now. He thinks it's beneath him. So it's fine. So I now have to go, get my own supply, which will probably be CVS and or Walgreens.
Okay. And what are you grabbing in particular?
I'm a Reese's girl. I love Reese's cups, or Reese cups as we say.
Mini or just the standard?
The standard, baby. The standard. You gotta go big. And sometimes king size if the moon strikes. But also I'm a big fan of Non-Laters, Green Apple. Green Apple Blow Pops, and I love the little fun size Snickers. I used to hoard those when I went trick or treating back in the day. So
you sound like Mama Fresh. Jenny, she was on the show earlier this week, and she said her kids don't even know Snickers exist during the Halloween season. She gets to them so fast.
I love it.
I love to shout out to the candy ladies, the snow cone ladies. I want to give one to Mrs. Smith on 119th and State. That was the house that I went to as a kid to get my snow cone extra sugary. She always had great now laters on deck. If you caught her on a pickle peppermint day, you was on. Always had some flaming hots. And then we would stay out there with my boy Isaac and play softball in this abandoned lot across the street or play piggy. And so, man, shout out to all the candy ladies around the city. Atavia, over to you. Do you got a favorite candy store or a favorite candy that you really get hyped for, especially around Halloween?
Much like you and Jamie, I grew up with the local candy lady on the corner, or my mom would just always have bags of candy. So in adulthood, it feels like I don't have that anymore. Shout out at RIP the Bogan Food and Deli, which used to be right near my house where I grew up on 79th and Pulaski. They had every type of candy you could imagine. I mean, you can walk in there. Because I was so close, they would give me candy for free, which my mom was not a fan of when I would bring all that stuff home. But it was good. And oh my gosh, for favorites, I really, really love Twix bars, those mini ones. But it's a tie, right? But it's a tie between that and Sour Patch Kids. I love sour candy. I can eat sour candy all day, literally till I can't taste anything anymore. I love sour candy.
Till your tongue feel burnt off.
Exactly. I love it. So it's a tie between those two. So just like Jamie, I think I'm hitting the local Walgreens now if I need a bag of candy. Yeah.
Man, shout out to all the candy entrepreneurs, all of the kids that's out here raising money for jerseys or for a local cheerleading team. Hey, that was the first side hustle I saw up close and personal. And so, yeah, this week is, and next, and honestly, every week is a candy week for me until my dentist tell me it's not.
Exactly.
As I said earlier, we bring in our friends from across the city to look back on some of the big stories that were happening either on their beats or just essentially in their world. And Jamie, I want to start with you because something that's been in the news for not only the last couple of weeks, but the last few months is what seems like steady turnover in City Hall. And I want to set the stage here because I feel like it isn't completely out of whack for a new mayor to come in and not only quickly make a bunch of hires, but in that first 18 months, also start to see some transitions as agendas shift, as you start maybe asking yourself who can and can't, get the job done, as, even as working relationships start to decay. You start to see those things happen. But can you catch us up to speed on the most recent turnover? And then, how are you processing this sort of steady flow or, of people seemingly in and out of City Hall?
It was announced that Ronnie Reese, one of Mayor Brandon Johnson's closest confidants, who served as his communications chief, stepped down. Um, According to sources close to the matter, they're saying that the move was not voluntary, and Deputy Press Secretary Aaron Connolly is going to be stepping into his place. But this is days after his deputy mayor of education also stepped down. So we've been seeing like this steady trickle of people sort of make their way towards the exits. And like you say, it's not necessarily unheard of that this happens. But given given a recent dissatisfaction with some residents as far as Johnson's concerned, like it's a little off-putting and a little alarming. Um, while he's been pushing for this loan for CTU, and pushing for the new Bear Stadium, folks are kind of scratching their heads and wondering like who's advising him, because from what I hear from my sources, this is not exactly what they want. So that said, I think as far as mayors go, like people still trust him a little more than they did Lightfoot and her predecessor, but these questions remain. And I mean, it's a bad look to have this much turnover in some people's opinions.
While simultaneously the narrative being you are looking to oust the CPS CEO, we just saw 7 school board members resign, 7 more to be sworn in, I think, as the time we're recording this later today. But let's turn the spotlight on Reese a little bit, because earlier in his tenure, there were some former press office staffers who complained about mistreatment under Reese, who talked about, the way he spoke to people at times was disrespectful, that there was this air in the building that if you were a holdover from the Lightfoot administration, that like you in some ways were, on a list.
I remember where staffers had pitched a 60-second video to sort of recap, the week's events, sort of tailing Johnson's comings and goings. And it was something similar to what, Lightfoot's comms people had done, and Reese nixed it. And it's like, well, that's weird because, like, granted, Lightfoot might have been a little corny, but these clips sort of helped her in certain ways and made her more accessible and appealing. So I'm not sure why they would nix that idea, considering. But yeah, no, Reese, having met him, nice guy. But according to staffers, yeah, like there were some things that he did, some ways that he treated them that were less than favorable. So, it's weird. I think working in comms, you have to have thick skin. But that said, you don't have to like be an asshole to the people who work under you.
For sure, for sure. What has Johnson's tone been around this? Because it is politics. So we're seeing a bunch of people saying we resign for whether it's personal reasons, things going on. Some people have just resigned and not offered any. As far as I know, I haven't heard from any of the school board members who resigned yet. And so what is Johnson's tone around this? Is he taking them on as like, I made these decisions, I'm making this reset? Or is it like, hey, people people want to go on to new challenges?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's trying to be as diplomatic as he can be. And also sort of taking this in stride, right? Because I mean, he's been getting hit in the press really hard. So we'll see what happens. Hopefully, he'll be able to sort of, bring his cabinet, sort of together in some way in the next few weeks and months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that I'm quite worried, but I also wouldn't say that the stories are being overblown. I think all of these events happening so close to one another, where you're seeing these stories kind of back to back to back, can be alarming to voters, to people within the city. I know it's kind of like a wait and see game, but since things have been sort of off kilter for so long now, I think people are wondering, when will we have stability? When won't this be in a headline?
Mm-hmm. And I mean, when you're looking specifically at the communications department, I think a lot of Supporters and opponents of Johnson would argue that maybe some of his biggest missteps, or even just some of his biggest learning curves in this first 18 months or so, has really been around communicating his agenda, communicating next steps, being transparent about contracts, talking in a way that feels like you're not lording the mayoral power and authority that you do have. And sort of, I do think people wonder, okay, like, when are you going to feel comfortable about the way your messaging is being delivered?
If you love grabbing a drink with a friend, and if democracy's on your mind this election season, and of course it is, you should volunteer with Beers and Ballots. Beers and Ballots empowers you to get off the sidelines and into the game this election season. It's a fun, easy way to facilitate conversations with prospective voters and their swing state friends over free beers. And if you are the owner or manager of a bar or coffee shop or entertainment venue, Beers and Ballots can increase your revenue and increase foot traffic by 10 to 15%. Here's what to do. Go to beers.vote to learn more about how Chicagoans can get involved and to sign up. Again, that website is beers.vote. Vote like your beer depends on it. This ad was paid for by Movement Labs, LLC.
Chicago's favorite holiday tradition is back at Lincoln Park Zoo and celebrating 30 years. Tickets are now on sale for Zoo Lights, presented by ComEd and Invesco QQQ, running November 15th through January 5th. Get ready for fun seasonal activities like photos with Santa, live ice carving, rides, holiday characters, and more, all surrounded by, get this, 3 million dazzling lights. Catch interactive light displays in the Light Lounge and grab a quick hot cocoa and other festive treats as you wander through the illuminated zoo. And be sure to check out other fun holiday events like Adults Night Out Holidays in December. Zoo Lights will start November 15th and run through January 5th. Tickets are $7 to $10 with select free nights. Get your tickets at lpzoo.org/zoolights to learn more and secure your spot before it sells out. If you've heard it once, you've heard it 1,000 times, and you probably don't need me to remind you, but we are knee deep in election season. Early voting is already going on across the city of Chicago in all 50 wards, but we are focusing on not just the top of the ballot, but also some ballot referendums, both binding and non-binding, that are going to be on the ballot if you live in certain South and Southwest side neighborhoods. We talked a little bit about this in our episode on Tuesday when I sat down with executive producer Simone Alisea. We talked through the statewide advisory questions that all of us are going to see on our ballots. And then we pointed at a couple of these binding and non-binding referendums. Can we start with the non-binding referendum in South Shore? Atavia, can you remind us what's going on here?
Yeah, so believe it or not, much like you said, the election is about 2 weeks away now, which I'm still wrapping my head around, the end of the year being this close. It does not feel like we're already here. And I know the focus right now is on the presidential election, but locally, there's a lot of movement happening. So specifically in the 7th and 8th wards, some voters will be able to share their opinion on whether they feel like there should be a community benefits agreement that will protect homeowners in South Shore. So like you said, this is a non-binding agreement, meaning that, this is just to boost momentum to get things moving forward, but it will protect homeowners from a lot of disinvestment, gentrification, things that are happening on the South Side right now as developments like the Obama Presidential Center move forward.
Atavia, I feel like the last few election cycles, we've seen similar CBA, community benefits agreement related questions around South Shore, around Woodlawn, concentrated around the Obama Center. I mean, have they made any impact? Because we've had some early numbers that suggest overwhelmingly people in these neighborhoods want some kind of protections. But with these non-binding referendums, does it seem as if they are, mostly ending up in just presentations and speeches, but not leading to something on the books for these communities?
Yeah, I think that's a concern that some neighbors have shared. And my colleague Maxwell Evans has dived into this for many years now. I mean, this referendum question is a big step forward. This is the first time that it has been revised to not just protect low-income neighbors who live in these communities, but also middle-income neighbors who also live in South Shore, to make sure people as a whole people within South Shore are really protected and can, prevent a lot of the I don't want to say fear, but a lot of the things are actually happening in these communities, whether that's rent going up higher or being pushed out of their homes because people are coming in who make more money. So I would say that, yeah, this is a big move forward for the community.
Yeah, shout out to Not Me We, an organization that has been fighting diligently for a decade to try to get something on the books in regards to housing protections in the neighborhood. Moving over to a binding referendum in parts of the South and Southwest side. Atavia, can you remind us what is the referendum and what are some of the neighborhoods that would be impacted here?
So this affects my communities, the beats I cover in Inglewood, Auburn Gresham, Chatham. And this is asking taxpayers within the community if they want to help fund free mental health services within the community. This would impact Inglewood and Greater Chatham and the near Southwest side communities. So when people hear taxpayer funded, immediately they're like, I already have my money. I don't know if I can give more money to anything. But the breakdown of this is that it's a 0.025% increase that people would have to contribute. And if you really break that down, that's like $16 to $24 per year for most households. And what this will do is create those free services up to $700,000 that will give mental health care to people within these communities, which is huge and is a way for people to contribute locally, but also to see movement forward in the care that people have been asking for years on the South Side.
Yeah. If people want to learn more about these referendum, but also learn more just about what's going to be on their ballot this forthcoming election, there are a few tickets left for TM Productions election show live taping. It's hosted by Trina Reynolds, Tyler, and Myra Quadra. It's going to be on Tuesday at 6 p.m. at Bill Coffee in Woodlawn. And again, Atavia, thank you for reminding us of some of the more local things that'll be on our ballot when we finally head into the booth.
Of course, hit those polls, everybody. Go out there.
Every single week, we like to make sure we are shining some light on some stories that maybe weren't on the front pages this week. And Jamie, I want to take people's attention over to a potential merger between CTA, Pace, and Metra. We did an episode, I want to say earlier this summer, about some of the implications here. And now we've recently heard from Chicago residents who were surveyed. One, can you remind us of what's going on with CTA, Metra, and Pace? Why is this happening? And then what do Chicagoans have to say?
Basically, we're broke. We's broke. We're poor.
Now we got some money. We just put it in particular places. We got some money.
Unfortunately, our public transportation, it's wildly underfunded. And a new survey from the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition shows that the majority of Chicago voters really want a merging of these three agencies, CTA, Metra, and Pace, to sort of streamline efforts and maybe, bring the ticket prices down or like the cost of, transportation down just a smidge. So like state lawmakers and transportation groups have been pushing for this merger, and like 54% of people say that they want it. But there's still like this matter of getting all the agencies on board with it. And I think that is one of the issues. Beginning in 2026, three agencies will have to grapple with a collective $730 million fiscal cliff. That is largely the result of a drop in fare box revenue and pandemic federal relief aid running out. The Biden administration gave millions of emergency funding to municipalities for COVID relief. So that money is running out as we speak. So basically, like, again, it's something that people are overwhelmingly for, but it's just, again, a matter of these three agencies coming together and sort of ironing something out. CTA spokesperson Manny Gonzalez said that the agency has lacked sufficient funding for decades. And he says, under the current formula, sales tax revenues are divided among the three service boards based on geographic boundaries and retail sales, not ridership, service levels, and other performance-based criteria. And the system has resulted in the CTA receiving 49% of regional public transportation funding, but providing more than 80% of all regional rides. So like we're underfunded and overused.
And it also means that they're competing against one another for funding because they're all individually underfunded.
So Wednesday, CTA, Metro, PACE, and ERTA presented their proposed 2025 budgets to the Cook County Transportation Committee. So I guess, again, we'll sort of wait and see what happens and whether or not it's approved. But as a person who has been using a lot of public transportation as of late, it's a mess out there, y'all. It is.
I appreciate that CTA and Metro are now on the same app, but I do wish, because I'm somebody who uses
that Venture app, if that were a person, I would punch in the face.
Bro, the amount of times that it rejects my Chase card, it makes me upset. It absolutely makes me mad. But I will say I appreciate that they are, because I was riding Metro CTA much like when I was a kid, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I imagine a lot of y'all were. And I do at least appreciate that I don't have a pocket full of Metro tickets that are getting sort of ripped up. I don't have a drawer full of bus tickets and transfer tickets that I never actually transferred.
You just took me back.
You know what I'm saying? And so I appreciate some of the advancements, but there is more to do. A more integrated fare system would be clutch as hell. And they sometimes offer discounts, regional neighborhood discounts, but like citywide discounts, citywide fare integration, because the price jumps that just went up on Metro, they've been killing me, bro. I loved that $1.50.
Yeah, same here. I'm a big fan of Metro as well. And it's interesting because, again, like they, about a year or so ago, they instituted like this reduced fare program for certain routes, particularly the electric route. And it's like, okay, this was largely successful because it got you more ridership. And then you're just like, okay, we're done with that now. We're going to pull the plug. And it's like, what the hell? What? Wait, what?
And then it jumps to $3.75 and
right. And then you're like, oh, okay, well, let me go back to waiting 20 minutes for this bus that will never come.
Exactly. I always grew up thinking that they were an integrated system. Like I knew that CT and Metro were different things, but to me, it was all just available transportation in the city. And so I always used them in combination with one another. So when people would say things like public transit doesn't get to like the far south side, I'd always be like, I mean, Metro going, and I know that is true, right? And so I always was like, no, you can get everywhere, but these systems aren't truly integrated and they don't feel like they all truly serve everybody. You know, one's for commuters and one feels like it is for the city. And so there's no sense of if this merger will go through, but my hope is that this conversation just pushes us to a more integrated system with better working relationships, less competition over scarce resources. And that's me trying to be optimistic. Atavia, a couple of weeks ago, we talked a little bit about a Gresham food pantry that is reopening, thanks in part to St. Sabina Church. But you are somebody who is on the ground in this community and you visited the pantry, you talked with residents. Can you tell me more about why this is so important for the neighborhood?
Yeah, so the St. Sabina Social Service Center reopened this food pantry that the Catholic Charities closed in late September. And this food pantry for over a decade served like over 800 people. And not just in Auburn Gresham, but in nearby communities, Inglewood, far south side, people were coming here. And they were coming here not just for food, but case management services, counseling services. There were so many things that people could experience here. So having this reopened in the community is huge for people. People at the church were saying, they were stopping by when it was closed, asking, will this reopen? When will this happen again? So having it there now, people have a place they can go to shop for food. Before you would receive like a bag of goods, but now you get to shop around with a cart and choose what you need and really shop with dignity. Is what people are saying.
I mean, across the city, church faith centers are really staples in a lot of communities. And I mean, St. Sabina Church is like, it's like one of the examples of this. Like, how big of a deal is it that this one space provides everything from food to clothing to case management and more?
It's major. I mean, in a way, churches, like you said, and community organizations are the backbone of most Southside communities. After years, decades of disinvestments, people know that they can turn to these local organizations that they trust to help them within communities. I mean, in Inglewood, there's the Iman Food and Wellness Center where people can also shop for produce, for diapers, for anything they need. So having this it's major in the community. I mean, it makes me, wag my finger at all of these larger businesses, corporations that have either pulled out of the community and or refused to build within the community. But at the same time, you have to give props where props are due because people are standing up for each other, they're having each other's back. So yeah, this is huge.
I think like what I've learned throughout the pandemic is that like yes, government should step in to help its citizens, but it's been like Octavia says, like these community organizations that have been again rooted in these communities for years that are helping folks. It's the mutual aid groups that have sprung up in recent years that have been paying, like utility bills and covering rent. And like, it might be the same folks passing the same 50 around, but people still need that 50.
So now you have organizations like Grow Greater Inglewood that have food, the Greater Chatham Initiative, just so many groups that are realizing if nobody has us, we have us. For us, by us, that FUBU. So that's really what's going on right now. But like I said, again, looking at some of these larger groups, corporations, organizations, like, now what are you going to do as you continue to open and close? What are you going to do to show up for people?
We've got links to all of the stories we've discussed in today's conversation in our show notes. Please, please, please go there, read more, visit chicago.citycast.fm and stay tapped in with our Hey Chicago newsletter. And that way, by the time we get to these Friday conversations, you're thinking to yourself, hey, I read some of these in the newsletter earlier this week. This episode is brought to you by Mubi, a global streaming service dedicated to elevating great cinema. Stream beautiful hand-picked films anytime, anywhere. Be sure to catch the cult classic The Fall, now streaming exclusively on Mubi in spectacular new 4K restoration. Filmed across 24 countries over a period of 4 years, Tarsum Singh's ostentatious epic sees a bedridden stuntman played by a magnetic Lee Pace spin an escapist fantasy for a hospitalized young girl. The story transports her into the exotic landscapes of her imagination, backdropped by magnificent costumes and stunning locations. Don't miss your chance to experience this film like never before. You can start streaming The Fall and more for 30 days free at Mubi.com/CityCast. You heard me right, 30 days free at Mubi.com/CityCast. Every single episode ends the exact same way. Some good news. Jamie, I want to start with you. What is your good news for CityCast Chicago today?
So I don't know who among us is a Stevie Wonder fan, but I am. Stevie will be at the United Center on November 2nd for a very special performance. I think it's part of he's been touring across the country. So I'm hoping I can score some tickets.
Are the Chicago dates new? Did he recently add those too?
I think so.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, was it November 2nd?
Yeah. And so I've had, but some of my friends attended a few of his shows on the East Coast, and they were raving about it. Like I was watching their Insta stories, like in envy, this man will never lose it. Like he has this gift and he will always have it.
Hey, I think he was in Milwaukee yesterday, Minneapolis on Sunday, gonna be over in Grand Rapids Wednesday before dropping off next Saturday in Chicago. Stevie Wonder, sing your song as we fix our nation's broken heart. We will drop a link in our show notes. Octavia, over to you. You got another great event for us to kick off November. Put us on.
Yeah, so 1 week after the Stevie Wonder concert, if you're looking to fill that November calendar, is the Black Girl Book Fair. So I grew up obsessed with the Scholastic Book Fair.
Yes.
Just anywhere I could go. I did the Pizza Hut, reading the books. I got the Six Flags tickets. So I, as an adult, look for these same opportunities. So the Black Girl Book Fair is going to be huge. I mean, you have the book joint, call and response, semicolon, burst into books, really just all coming together in this one space at Keto Chicago and offering books. I mean, you could buy them, you could turn up there, you can meet your fellow book lovers, you could not like books and be like, well, put me on. Like, it's really going to be a time, or at least I'm gonna make it a time. And it's from 7 to 10 p.m. So grown-up hours. So
awesome.
but not really, because it's the weekend. So all are invited, but I would 100% recommend going out to this. I will be there, and yeah, get some books for this cold weather.
I love how they're forming like Voltron like this. Like, that's really dope.
Yeah, it's like the Infinity Stones of Black women who own bookstores. Like, it's like they're all coming together. They're assembling for this amazing day. It's also so inspirational seeing Black women own bookshops. I mean, I grew up watching all the rom-coms where, they owned a bakery or a bookstore and they were able to make a living. And I thought that was, real. And then I got older and I was like, oh, maybe this might be fiction. But seeing...
It was always Meg Ryan owning like a bookstore or a coffee shop.
Yeah. Sandra Bullock, like always. So seeing this with my own eyes, especially in the city, especially on the South Side in some cases, it's really been, it's been inspiring. And I'm like, who knows? Maybe Block Club Bookstore. You might see me do my own thing soon. Who knows?
Come on.
Awesome. I'm in. I'll be your first customer.
Oh, thank you.
All right. So Jamie has got us next Saturday with Stevie Wonder.
Yes.
Atavia has got us the following Saturday with the Black Girl Book Fair. And then I got us for this Saturday because I'm going to see Ruth on the Rocks, starring Ruth Guetta. It's a one-person show at the Storyfront in Back of the Yards. And it's a dramedy. It's a part of the larger Destinos Latino Theater Festival. I previewed this in our guide to October earlier this month, and now I'm finally going. And I also want to give a special shout out to Ricardo Gamboa, who is funny as hell because every time he has like an event or something, especially if I like post it in the podcast that I'm gonna go, he'll always just randomly DM me. And he just was like, so when you come in to see the play? So when you come in to see the play? And this time I didn't even respond. I just bought the tickets, and then he responded. He was like, I see you. But please, the shows are selling out fast. I've heard nothing but amazing things. Ruth Guetta is just your average Mexican-American middle-aged girl that grew up in the hood on Chicago's South Side and loves a good drink or 10, her jams, and a messy relationship. Plus, she's also a mother and a grandmother. So this is going to be a fantastic 70-minute show. Get your tickets before the entire show is sold out. I will drop links to all 3 events in the show notes. I want to give a huge thank you to our guest today, the super duo from Block Club Chicago, Jamie Nesbitt Golden. Jamie, always a great time.
Thank you for having me.
The original Scooter Gang. If y'all been here for the last 3 years, these voices are voices y'all should know and love. Shout out to Block Club Chicago's Atavia Reed.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been so great. Thank you.
Of course, I got to thank the people who make all of this possible. The website, the newsletter, the podcast. I got to start with our executive producer, Simone Alicea. Simone, we appreciate you holding it down. Our producer, Michelle Navarro, about to celebrate a year with CityCast Chicago, just doing the damn thing. Like, we appreciate you, G. Our Hey Chicago newsletter editor, the one and only Sydney Madden. Our roving newsletter editor is Adrian Gonzalez. The music we all love is from Sam Thousand, All the Kimonos, and Mark Greenberg from the Mayfair Workshop. But I do got one more reminder for you. We're in the final stretch of our fall member campaign, and at this point, I know you know what that means. Become a CityCast Chicago member, feel good about supporting local journalism, getting in on some of these great perks, getting a dope-ass tote bag to show your love. All you got to do for all of that is to head over to membership.citycast.fm right now to join. And if you're already a member, thank you. I see you. I appreciate you. We couldn't do this work without you. And for everybody who's signing up and leaving us your reasons why, we've read them all. We've cried multiple times this week. We really appreciate y'all. Hey, if you enjoy the show, share with your friends and family. And most importantly, be back here bright and early on Monday. Yeah, I think that's it. If you made it to this point, watch me tonight on WTTW Chicago tonight. I'm going to be on there probably rocking some fly Chicago coat or jacket or something. You know how I get down. But for everybody else, I'm going to see y'all on Monday. Peace.
I was visiting some friends downstate Labor Day weekend, and they live in like this podunk town. They're listening. I'm sorry. It's not. It's.
I love Chicago because we'll be like, they live in this podunk town, and they'll be like Peoria.
Exactly.
It's like, oh, another pretty big city.